Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and during this quarantine time, I have had a moment to suss out where my Nintendo experience was lacking. I realized that I really haven't played that many DS games, and that is a prolific catalog of games. Zelda, Animal Crossing, Mario, Pokemon, they are all there. So many that I would like to play alongside the current Zelda, Animal Crossing, Mario, and Pokemon games on the Switch. Why have I not played them? Then I realized why. I loved the DS Lite, but the screen was just too small. I have played a few DS games in the native resolution mode on my new 3DS XL, and while they look best in that native mode opposed to in the default blurry mode, I started to find the experience was sadly lacking. We will get into that. That's when I found out, finally, after 10 years, that the DSi XL existed. I paid $400 for this thing. Obviously, you can buy it used for much less. I just wanted the off-the-shelf experience. So in this video, I approached the question, is the DSi XL worth it in 2020? And I'm going to say this once again, like with the 3DS, heck yes, it's worth it. Let's get into it. So somehow, as I said, I had no idea that the DSi XL was ever a thing. I had all but shunned the DSi due to Nintendo taking away the Game Boy Advance slot. I was so mad. I'm still mad. So that was probably why I didn't know there was an XL version. I just never looked into it. What grabbed my attention about the DSi XL is that its 4.2-inch displays are similar in size to the 3DS XLs. No more tiny DS Lite image. And DS games play on it the way they were intended to look. Larger images on displays whose resolutions match the resolutions of the DS games. Pixel perfect, 1-to-1. Granted, I know that 256 by 192 pixels at 4.2 inches is quite a low pixel density, and some people won't like that, but in my opinion, it still looks better than what the 3DS XL can offer. Let me explain. If you play DS games on the 3DS XL, which is the way I'm sure most people play their DS games, you have two options. Play with a scaled image that looks blurry and interpolated, or play in the native resolution mode by holding down either the Start or Select button at startup, which gives you black borders and smaller gameplay. Not ideal. For the sake of being able to have backwards compatibility with my 3DS and only carry one system, I was willing to deal with the smaller gameplay. But you're still stuck with the side effect of the 3DS's 3D-capable top screen. It makes 2D images in any game appear to have horizontal lines through them. Maybe you haven't noticed that, but once you do, it's really hard to unnotice. Why does this effect happen? Very simplified, it's because of the shape and arrangement of the pixels and how our eyes perceive them. Let's look up close. This top display is 240 by 800 pixels. RGB pixels are made up of red, green, and blue subpixels. We can perceive the disparity between the pixel height versus the pixel width. RGB stripe pixels are typically square, and the stripes are typically vertical, so this is an atypical layout. The pixels are very skinny, and we can't perceive space between them horizontally. So we really notice the stripes of the subpixels. This looks like horizontal lines. This is made worse when primary colors are being displayed, because we can see the space between the inactive subpixels too. When playing 3DS games in the 3D mode, you don't see the horizontal lines anymore since each eye is only seeing the horizontal resolution of 400 lines, not 800. Now we can perceive space between the pixels. This is thanks to the parallax barrier, which makes the 3D effect possible. It's actually quite cool. Each eye is seeing two slightly different 240 by 400 images, which creates depth. But with DS games, you can't use the parallax barrier to knock down the horizontal resolution per eye. You are stuck in 2D mode. So you will always have horizontal lines, and if you play in the native resolution mode, black borders too. No thank you. As an extra jab, the native resolution mode isn't even native resolution. It's not a pixel-perfect 1-to-1 representation. It's actually 1-to-2. 1 image pixel to every 2 display pixels. The 3D-capable display has to pair pixels in 2D mode so that it can act as a 240 by 400 pixel display instead of its actual 240 by 800 resolution. This works okay for 3DS games in 2D, and it looks pretty good. Because those pixels are so skinny, Nintendo can get away with pairing them. Most people won't complain or notice, but why choose this if you have a choice to play on a one-to-one screen like with the DSi XL? The bottom screens of the 3DS are immune to this though. They have a normal amount of pixels and don't have to pixel pair. So at least if you're playing bottom screen dependent DS games in the native resolution mode, you just have to deal with a smaller game surrounded by black borders, but no horizontal lines. And by the way, the 2DS XL uses the same displays as the 3DS. It's a cost-cutting measure. The top screen just doesn't have the parallax barrier, and that's what makes the 3D effect possible. But you're still stuck with a 1:2 display. You could get the doorstop 2DS since both top and bottom screens are 1:1, but the image is tiny, only a bit bigger than the Game Boy Micro, and black bordered. So all of this is to say that the largest 1:1 experience can be found on the DSi XL. And to top it all off, both screens of the DSi XL are IPS screens. All of them, no-brainer, fantastic viewing angles that don't wash out. So I hope that my nerdy fastidiousness was informative and helpful to you, or at the very least amusing. So what have I been up to with this newfound world of games? I've been playing Animal Crossing Wild World while comparing it to New Leaf and New Horizons. So charming! This was the first mobile version of Animal Crossing. Even though the resolution of the game is quite low, all of the Animal Crossing gameplay is still there. It aged quite well. Tom Nook was so mean back then, and all the villagers have quite some attitude. I love it. Blathers, the museum, the roost, Able Sisters, it's all there. Seriously, check it out for a bit of nostalgia, or to see the roots of the mobile version of the game. Then for Pokemon. Heart Gold and Soul Silver look fantastic on the DSi XL. I have pulled out my Pokewalker again. It's a pedometer that interacts with the game. You catch Pokemon, find items, and transfer them into the game. Technically, the Pokewalker still even works with the Switch. Now get this, you can transfer Pokemon from the Pokewalker to Heart Gold, then to Pokemon Black and White, then from Pokemon Black and White to Pokemon Transporter, then to Bank, then to Pokemon Home, and then finally into Sword and Shield. And I actually want to try this. On to Zelda. I have never played a touch-based version of the game. Phantom Hourglass has been incredible. Seriously, don't let these low-res games fool you into thinking the gameplay is overly simplistic. There is so much screen real estate to enjoy such titles on the DSi XL. There is so much to discover with this system, and it helps that the battery life is fantastic. I also prefer the way that the D-pad is situated on the DSi XL to the 3DS XL, as it's a more natural placement for my thumb, where on the 3DS I really can't decide between using the circle pad or the D-pad. D-pad games just don't work great with the joystick. Now, as for elements that made the DSi, the web browser is defunct, DSiWare store has been closed, the cameras are 0.3 megapixels, I believe, so I won't be using them, and I have no need for its music capabilities. Those are no longer reasons to buy this system. This is truly a system meant to play DS games now, and that's okay. I am so glad that I picked one up and finally gave the DSi a chance. My husband even jumped in on the fun with the yellow unit. So there you go, totally worth it. An entire new world of games has been opened up for me. Paying for a new one was expensive, but it also granted me access to a time capsule or time machine. I was transported back to 2010 to the system's heyday. Plus, it wasn't all grubby. Seriously, pick one up. People once thought it was too big, but today it's ironically the perfect sized handheld. So this has been Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff. I hope this was informative and fun. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me if this convinced you, whether you will use the DSi to play your DS games over the 3DS. And have a good day, you guys. Bye! They've made this an absolutely impossible task. Ah! Okay. There's no other possible way. This is what you get. There's the game. If I can.
Watch your fingers.
my gosh. The game!
Yay!